Ladies and gentlemen, we have a remarkable young man, Mike Rothschild, author of The Storm is Upon Us. In 2020, he published his first book, The World's Worst Conspiracies, and has appeared on CNN, the BBC, NPR, New York Times, Washington Post, and the list goes on and on. How QAnon became a movement caught in conspiracy theory. I want to talk about that. It's fascinating. I got Mike. Mike, good day.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on the show. Let's first talk about the background to QAnon and why the rise, not a rise of just QAnon, but a rise of this sentiment that conspiracy is now mainstream.
Sure. So QAnon began in October of 2017 with these cryptic posts on the message board 4chan. And since then, it's taken off to become this cult-like, almost neo-religion based around Donald Trump as this messianic figure who will unleash these hundreds of thousands of indictments and sweep away the bad guys in his purge called the Storm. And of course, now that's all changed because Donald Trump is no longer in office, and you have Joe Biden, who is presumably not going to arrest himself. So what you have now is a prophetic movement about Trump returning to office, starting with the March 4th stuff. Now you've got this Maricopa County recount, and it's going on and on from there. These people truly believe that Trump will be restored to his rightful place in the Oval Office. Then he'll go back to the business of sweeping away all the bad guys.
Fascinating. In your work, Mike, you actually connect this current conspiracy theory to historical conspiracy theories and scams before this. Make those connections for me.
Sure. So QAnon, it seems very new. It seems very sort of cutting edge and social media friendly. But what I wanted to do with the book is strip away that sheen of newness and get down to the component parts of it. And those component parts are very old. They go all the way back to the blood libel tropes of the 12th century. They go back to conspiracy theories of the Byzantine Empire and the Roman Empire. And they go forward to these popular affinity fraud scams that were going on in the late 90s and even today. You had firms getting taken down, making millions off selling worthless Iraqi currency or these other scams, promising great wealth if you prayed really hard or if you sent money to these gurus. And I tried to connect everything together. The QAnon is just another version of one of these intel-driven secret knowledge scams, except there's no investment component. What you get are the good feelings of watching your enemies be hanged.
Let me ask you this, man, because there has always been a segment of society who adhered to a conspiracy theory or two, right?
Yes.
You've always had people who believe aliens. Well, hell, I can't use that now. Hell, aliens might be real. There's always been a segment that said this is legit, even absence of evidence. Let me put it that way.
Yes.
Absence of all evidence, they simply believed a story. But here's the difference, Mike. Usually, they exist in a silo, in a very small minority, and they typically did not have influence over the mainstream narrative. But this is quite different. Tell me why.
This is different in that QAnon is essentially what I like to call a big tent of conspiracy theories. And even if you don't believe all of it, there's something in there for almost everybody. And really, this really all merged together during the pandemic. You had the whole world was on lockdown. We all had to go inside. Nobody really knew what was going on, why it was happening, and most importantly, who to blame for it, whose fault it was. So people in these different silos, and I think that's a great term for it, went online and they started looking for answers. So you had far-right conspiracy theorists who think Barack Obama was born in Kenya, but then you had these traditionally more left-wing health freedom circles and wellness circles, people who are very much against the pharmaceutical industry and anti-vaccine. Everything then got merged together because social media, and in particular Facebook, made everything so easy to find. So you would join an anti-5G Facebook group. That would lead you to an anti-Bill Gates Facebook group. That would lead you to an anti-vax Facebook group. And then you get to a QAnon Facebook group, and suddenly that looks really appealing. And you have now radicalized yourself with no intent to do so simply because of social media.
Wow. Do you think it was an intentional strategy to become a big tent conspiracy theory organization so that they could become more mainstream in the political narrative? Or did it just happen organically for them?
I think it happened organically. I don't think there's any real organization or structure behind this. QAnon would take months off from posting drops. And of course, there hasn't been a new Q drop since December. But the website 8chan, where Q made most of his cryptic posts, went down for months in the summer of 2019, and then only came back as this sort of reconstituted version that nobody really uses. So if it was planned and organized, it wasn't done very well. And you'd think that these people are just sort of waiting around for a pandemic, and maybe there's a deep state, but I don't think they can plan that far ahead.
Who in the hell is Q?
It's a great question. We still don't know for sure. And the best that most journalists and disinformation researchers can come up with is that there are probably a couple of different people who were doing it. It started off with these posts on 4chan, and then after a couple of months, it jumped over to this other board, 8chan. And somewhere along the line, somebody lost control of it, and it probably ended up being this guy, Ron Watkins, who's the son of 8chan's owner, Jim Watkins. But we still don't know for sure. Ron denies it up and down. He's still denying it even right now. So we really don't know. And what I wanted to do in the book is reiterate that it doesn't really matter. Whatever QAnon started as, sort of a goofy game or a puzzle or a riddle, it has become a full-fledged mass movement. And the originator of that, to me, is just not as important as all of the people who believe in it.
Yeah, and now you have individuals who are elected to higher office who believe in it. We have Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. You also have city council members who have been elected across the country. County officials have been elected who subscribe to QAnon conspiracy theories. And I think it only gets worse because of the tribalism that exists in politics, where you start from a position of saying that no matter what the truth is, my side is right. And any truth that comes to you, you're so indoctrinated, you reject it 100%. Do you think QAnon is dangerous at its core, or do you think it simply fizzles out soon?
Oh, it's absolutely dangerous. We've seen, even going back a couple of years, QAnon believers committing violent acts. There was an act of domestic terrorism in summer of 2018 when this guy, Matthew Wright, I write about this extensively in the book. This guy, Matthew Wright, drove a homemade armored vehicle with multiple firearms, 900 rounds of ammunition, and flashbang grenades onto a bridge outside Hoover Dam, asking that the real Inspector General report be released. This came straight from a Q drop, and it turned into a police chase. This guy had to have his tires shot out. He was arrested. Nobody was hurt, miraculously. He's in prison now for 8 years because of this.
The internet is a hell of a drug.
Yes, it is.
That's all I can say about that. Mike, brother, thank you for doing what you're doing. You are obviously one of the truth sayers on the planet today. How can people get your book?
You can order it anywhere books are sold, bookshop.org for your local bookstore, Amazon, of course, Barnes & Noble. Anywhere you can buy books, you can buy my book.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your time on Indisputable.
Yes.